a service, but when you look deeper into it, you would think, first of all, you would think that transportation disadvantage would be done by the Department of Transportation. And there are 7 programs in the Department of Transportation that do transportation disadvantage. What is that? That's let's say, a handicapped veteran who needs to get to the doctor. Transportation disadvantaged will get them there on an appointed schedule and get them back. That's an example of it. Problem is, there are 7 programs in Department of Transportation, but there are 87 different programs that cover the same set of people. Now, for instance, this is one. Okay, so now I told you it was a little teeny thing in a large picture, but it is an example of the way government works in every area. There is one of those 87 programs that people are familiar with. It's called Head Start. It's an education program that helps elementary age students in the early grades catch up, especially if they had some sort of language barrier or other things. They help them gain and get caught up by 3rd grade, hopefully, with the rest of the classes. That has a transportation component to it. Even though there is another program that is not capped that could do that program, there's still an education component. You would think that it would be in the Department of Transportation, but it's not. So here's the Department of Education has a transportation component that's funded by Health and Human Services. And I looked at that and I thought, yes, this is the picture I was looking for. This is why it doesn't work. Because, like I told you, the appropriators put this into action. So there's a Health and Human Services Appropriation Subcommittee. There's an Education Appropriation Subcommittee. There's a Transportation, Transit and Highway Subcommittee. So I asked the chairman of the Highway and Transit Subcommittee, Appropriations, if he knew how many transportation disadvantaged programs there were. And he said, yes, there's 7. I go, would you believe me if I told you there are 87? His eyes just got big. He said, you're kidding me. I said, no, I'm telling you there are 87 programs. But does the chairman of the Health and Human Services know that there's probably a program in transportation that would fund that? No. Do the people in education know? No, they don't know either. Do they know? Does even Health and Human Services know education is doing something like that? No, they don't. So 8 years ago, when they did the initial study, the Government Accountability Office figured that out and had decided, okay, let's get all of these departments together. So the large departments, Health and Human Services, Education, so forth, all got together, and they were going to have this consortium, and they were going to work it all out. So the departments accepted that, and Department of Transportation was the lead, and they set up this group. Problem is, nobody ever showed up for the meetings. So for 8 years, back then, there were only 63. So the things that changed were this. They did put together this consortium that never met. And they added another 24 programs. So Race to the Top, No Child Left Behind, those are all education programs. They all have transportation components, and I could go on and on and on in every single department. If you were to take a sheet of paper and, well, let's see, I'll try to do it here. I need a person. This is going to be my person. Here's a person. And that person is covered by this program, and this program, and this program, and this program, and you could add it up. And in one case, I just looked at a couple. 8 different programs cover this same person. They're covered under. They're grounded in government programs when one would be enough. Here's the problem. Does it mean that you have to cut some of those, and when you cut them, somebody doesn't get serviced? No, doesn't mean that at all. What it means is that there is somebody that's head of that, and they have other people working for them, and other people working for them, and finally it gets down to the state, and then the state has people working for them in that area, and then there are the people that go and check and see if the money's being spent in the proper place. So there are all those people, all doing it 8 different times for 8 different programs that cover this person. So I only tell you that to say, I'm getting there, but I don't understand it all yet either. But I'm getting there. And when I have hopefully uncovered all of this, I think it applies to a huge number of other things in government. But I won't be able to apply it until I solve one. And if I can solve one, then it will. So I have, my goal is this. First goal is to take all of the capital expenditures, i.e. buying of buses and vans and so forth, and put it into the Department of Transportation. Because that's what they do. That's their job, that's their mission. And so if I could just do that, at least it will keep somebody from taking 2 different buses on the same street, neither of one full, picking up 2 different people who qualify under the same program. If I can do that, that's a start. Once I get that, then we'll see what happens with the rest. But I understand what you're saying. I at least can see in a broad sense the problem. And I've defined it 2 ways. There are 2 things that I don't like about the federal government. Once I got there, I figured out 2 things. There may be a lot more, I don't know. One is, it's called mission creep. And that's what this is. You got the Department of Education, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the VA, and Department of Labor, all doing transportation issues. That's not their mission. And mission is Department of Transportation. So it's called mission, I call it mission creep. Kind of creeps over into their area, but it doesn't have anything to do with what they're doing. Second is cookie cutters. Healthcare, transportation funding, education funding, all of that is done with cookie cutters. So here, Orlando, is your program. Here's the cookie. Here it is. Here, Butte, Montana, is the same program. Here, Inner City, New York, this is your program. They're all the same. And the reason that's wrong is because we don't have the same problems with those people. We have different problems. And better to build it with community, public-private relationships from the bottom up. That's why in a lot of these areas you see these states, governors begging to have flexibility in what they're doing. I mean, you can ask for a waiver, but it takes forever and it becomes sort of a bureaucratic favor. And if you'll do all these other things, we might give you a waiver of some sort. But that's not the way it ought to be. It's our money. You paid it in taxes. And it should be given back to the state. And the state could use it the way they see fit to meet the needs of the communities. As opposed to this large bureaucracy and pyramid that finally lets a few little dollars trickle in with 1,000 strings attached to them. So that's a long answer to a question that is a very pertinent question. Do we see what's going on? In order to do those things you talked about, in order to get people off of the trough, in order to take away the waste, we have to solve this little transportation disadvantage problem. If we solve that, then we'll know how to solve the rest. Or pick another one, but that's one. Yes?
My name's Sean Lewis. I just actually moved to Orange County, Florida from Orange County, California. And it's my first opportunity to meet you, so I just want to thank you. I've only been here 3 days. It's awesome. So some of the questions I've been reading online about you, didn't really know anything before I came out. Some of the questions that people talk online is, obviously looking at that debt, it's undeniable that we have to cut our spending. But in Florida, it seems that you guys have a high number of senior citizens on Medicare. So I was just wondering, when we're talking about it, how do we reconcile, the need to cut Medicare with the high number of senior citizens currently depending on it in Florida?
Well, it depends on whose program you look at. There are some that just say, let's just keep borrowing the money. Well, eventually, there will be no program if you do that. Those that take them, there is 2.9% of the money goes into that from someone's salary and into Medicare, and that is going to run out of money. It's going to go dry in 9 years. So this program does not. This recommends no changes for anyone 55 and above. So that means for the rest of their life, anyone that between now and 2023 that retires, nothing changes for the rest of their life. At that point, then there would be options similar to what federal employees get as options. They could still stay in a Medicare-like program, which is a fee-for-service, or they could get other options. Okay, yes?
I have to say, first of all, I was glad when you turned off that clock counter thing. That was scary. What can we as better informed citizens here today, what can we do, besides probably vote for you, to help us move in the right direction?
Well, I will say this, that